Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life After Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm your host tonight, Michelle, and I'm here with Janice and Steve Belcher. And Steve was actually around when old Russell started the Bible students, so it's a pleasure to have them. So, how are you guys tonight?
Very good.
Lovely. Nice to see you, Michelle.
Nice to see you too. How are you guys feeling about that intro?
I thought it was very good.
Really good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
He picked some lovely pictures too. Cool.
Yeah, it looks like you guys had a big part in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So, what was your backstory in a nutshell?
I'll let you do yours first.
Oh, well, I come from a long-standing family of JWs, going back all the way on my father's side, goes all the way back to Russell's time. And consequently, consequently, two grandparents, one great-grandfather and a grandmother who were supposed to be of the so-called anointed. And my mother's side goes back far enough, back to the late 30s, and as a result, all her family became JWs, and there's quite a big family of JWs on that side of the family, not to mention my father's side of the family as well. So, yeah, there's a big family of us in total. So well indoctrinated.
Uncountable, actually. Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be sort of a lot of pressure for you as well growing up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the problem. When you're not brought into it and then you're told that you're of really good stock, supposedly, which wasn't true. But, I'm told all these crazy, weird and amazing stories.
Yeah.
And, you don't know anything different, and you're told how great it all is and how privileged we are to be a witness, and that we're a completely the family that's deserving of life, and everybody else on the planet, pretty much, unless they adopt the faith, are doomed and not good associates to be with. Yeah, it does affect you.
It certainly screws with your mind.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So growing up for yourself, how did you sort of wake up in terms of like coming from that background? And then we'll move on to Janice.
Yeah, Janice.
No, you do. You're waking up.
Well,
you go first.
It was. Yeah, I don't know. I had a bad upbringing, really. Lacked interactions with children of my own age, so I was impaired socially. I had no confidence. Not set up to be able to go out and fend for myself and get a job. Nothing. I had no education. Not much of an education, I don't think. And yet, all the reports that I had showed that I could have gone places, but it was very disappointing the way it worked out. So I never really succeeded that well, and I was told, don't fret, don't worry, Stephen, because the end of the world will be here by the time you're 21. I was encouraged to get baptized when I was just turning 17. That was back in the end of 1969. And
so it's been a long time since then.
Yes, it has been a long time. And then I hung on. We were all told about 1975, it was going to be the end of the whole thing. And then I hung on a bit longer because you think, they could have a couple of years grace sort of thing. And then we're early married. And then I'm thinking, how am I going to be the breadwinner? How am I going to bring in enough money? Janice has had to work all her married life to help support. And yeah, so then after that, I started to wake up on a few things, and I started to examine the scriptures more on my own accord rather than just going by what you're told, for each week to prepare for the meetings. I do my own private research
Yeah.
in the scriptures, and I found some major flaws, especially with the resurrection hope. That was the major one, and it wouldn't leave me. It stuck with me for years, probably 30 years. I grizzled about it, and yet we still thought, oh, this is still God's true organisation, so to speak. So, it'll get sorted somehow. Because it didn't, things just went from bad to worse, and eventually, I had been waking up. I think I'd been waking up longer than I realised, because we were always individuals ourselves. I've always treasured being my own self, not being trying to be pushed into the same box that everybody else has to be in. I've always felt, a person should be their own individual self, and that's how I've always been strong on that one.
It was your saviour, really.
Yeah, I think that's what saved me, because I had a strong will to to be independent, to be my own self, and not get so roped up, or didn't even feel guilty if I took a day off on a Saturday to go fishing. I told myself, well, I deserve to. I shouldn't be controlled or feel guilty that I have given up a beautiful day's pleasure going out on a boat to go out traipsing around doors, burning up petrol, wasting time, unprofitable. We used to do a lot of country witnessing, and probably be lucky if you did 3 houses, and the rest of the time you're stuck in a car waiting for somebody else to go down a long drive and come back, and a lot of time wasted sitting around having cups of tea. And I just started to realise, well, this is just an absolute joke. I got to the stage.
It got rebellious, actually.
I got to the stage of even going to assemblies. Well, it's just all a mindset. Oh, can't wait to get to assembly. It's going to be great. And after assembly, wasn't it a great assembly? I thought to myself, well, what was so great about it? What was anything in this that I hadn't heard before? The same old ranting on, and all these dramas, and I was really over it before. Yeah. I actually stopped witnessing 10 years before we actually finally gave up. It was 10 years before we actually stopped
managed to make the final cut.
Because it was so strong that I had enough scriptural evidence to prove that we were teaching people lies, that my own conscience would not allow me to go around door knocking anymore. So I just wish that I had made the break, when the kids were much younger, because as a result they've suffered having to be brought up to the age where they were in that org, and it's not very good. But
so you woke up.
We woke up.
You in the end. It was me that helped you.
Janice,
it was sort of like, my sort of part of the story says kind of the final wake up was up to me, really. I think that Stephen was just hanging on because he was so faithful.
Yeah.
Probably made it a bit easier too by this time. Both my parents had passed away.
Yeah.
And
my mum had passed away.
My mother was a very happy, smiling person all her life. But I noticed in the last few years of her life, she became a very sad-looking lady, and I think that she started to realise that things hadn't worked out as she'd hoped. And she'd already had 2 daughters that had been disfellowshipped through in marriage breakups, and none of us in our family would ever imagine that could have ever happened, because we were always supposed to be the so-called strong JW family.
Good stock. Yeah,
and yet there it was, falling apart. Yeah. I'd been a ministerial servant too for the best part of 17 years, and not long after I became one, then I realised, well, what am I in for here? And I tried to get out of it, but it took a long time. It's not so easy to get out as you might think. But I eventually got out of it. But,
I think that whole line can sum up all of the JW experience when you're trying to leave. It's not as easy to leave as you might think.
No, it's not.
No. So, Janice, then what's your backstory, and then how did you end up sort of giving Steve the push to leave?
Okay. Yeah, I've got some notes, so I'll remember it all. Quite a different J-Dub family, because my dad was not a witness, but he was living between two witnesses. He was the middle house. There were witnesses on each side. This is in the 1960s, so those neighbours were always preaching to him. And Dad was quite a I'd call a spiritual person, so, and he was searching. I think he said he was searching, so they sort of got hold of him, really, probably love bombed him and all the rest. So it was inevitable. It took about 3 years, but he made the break. And when he got baptised, I was probably about 8 years old, and he was still smoking. I still remember, because Dad loved smoking. He really, really loved it. And he couldn't give up, so he still got baptised. They baptised him as a smoker. And in the meetings in the old days, they used to have half time, and that was between the watchtower and the talk. And so he'd go out for a puff at half time, and the kids would all go and play outside. It was probably only about 10 minutes, and other people smoked. He wasn't the only one. So I think there were 2 or 3 of them puffing away on cigarettes. So he finally gave up when he had to. I think they put the hard word on him, and he gave up. And then you had Mum, who was just tagging along. She never got baptised, so she'd tag along with Dad to the meetings, because she was a very obedient wife, even though she wasn't a J-Dub. I think she saw something in it, but she didn't want to get baptised, and she never sort of committed to witnessing or any of that. So we had Mum like that. It was 30 years at least. I was probably about 38 when she got baptised. And I remember, but everyone used to comment and say, "Oh, your mother's not baptised, is she?" That was always the first thing. "Oh, your mother's not." It was always, because Mum used to tag along to the assemblies and everything, and she was just different. Everyone knew, word got round, she's not baptised, and that was sort of like a feature. You'd always expect that question. I didn't think anything of it, but
I can relate to that personally as well.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, actually. Yeah, so that was Mum. And so we weren't really a typical J-Dub family, and Dad insisted that because that was 1975, I experienced all that too. So we had to go to college and get a good education. In those days, going to the end of the sixth form or 4 years was acceptable. That was, don't leave when you're 15. So I was at least 16 and a half when I left, because he says, my girls are not, he used to tell the elders this, my girls are not leaving until they get their school C and a good job. So pioneering was never ever pushed with Dad. And I did sort of leave like when I was supposed to, for what he wanted, and got a good job. For those days, it was a good job. I could have got better, but it was a good job. And I stuck with it right till I retired, virtually. So thanks to Dad, he never pushed any of that, because he was alternative. And Mum never indoctrinated us, obviously, so it was only Dad. So not having a mum, that was good, because all Dad really made us do was be obedient, be honest, reliable, hardworking, and non-judgmental. And that's one thing my dad was, all of those things. He was really firm on that. And that could have been why I was a little bit awake. When I look back, it was that upbringing that didn't indoctrinate me as much as you, because you had that really hard-out indoctrination. And but I believed it was the truth, obviously, but I could never, I'd go to the meeting and switch off quite often, and just, because a lot of those doctrines were I couldn't work it all out. Bits of it I could, but I thought, that's too hard. How do they work that out? So it was all over my head, a lot of it, and it didn't make sense. But the one thing I did feel was that fear. I definitely had the fear, Armageddon's coming, I'm going to be destroyed. How on earth am I going to make it through? I'm not doing all those things. But anyway, where I came in with Stephen, after I can bypass all those years of our marriage, I suppose, but by the time I got married, me coming into with my upbringing, added with yours, probably balanced it out, because I made Stephen more slack, definitely. I mean, but Stephen had the ability to sort of do the scriptures that I didn't, you know, so he'd sort of say, oh, this doesn't add up and that doesn't add up, and I'd say, oh, look, don't worry about it, it's all going to get sorted out. I don't agree with it either, but it's the new light will come and it'll work its way out. Well, I think we've ticked along till about the Australian Royal Commission round about that time, and that's when I started to wake up, I think, too. And also in that time, we were out and about, we were being naughty witnesses, really, because events just left us we were socialising in the world as adults.
Right.
This is only 15 years ago.
I don't think we ever really fitted into the congregation as well. So we've lacked friendship pretty much all our lives.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've had an interest in cars, so I joined the car club back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And then music's always been a thing that has been sort of with me right from the time I was very young. And then I sort of started to branch out, and we started going to karaoke.
That's
things.
the first thing.
And then it was like the door opened up again. It had been shut and then opened up, and then I started to realise that I actually had a lot of potential in that field, and I was starting to enjoy it. And so we got quite involved. We joined the country music clubs, and then we branched from that, and then because I got invited to sing publicly on
the live music
on a special program night once a week in town. One of the popular restaurant and pubs right down.
That was the beginning of the
part of the city. So I was getting public exposure, and you know, it was good to be able to entertain people and know that people were enjoying what you do. That was great. So it was a whole new level of things opened up for us.
Yeah.
We started to find what were real people for the first time. We were never mixing with real people at all in the all. They weren't real people. Now we're starting to realise that there were real people, genuine people, and we haven't looked back.
But I think too, it was so obvious that they were so accepting. Like, we were quite square pegs when I think about it. We used to go along and just sit there quietly we'll go and do the karaoke, for example, and Stephen would get up and we were quietly in the corner. People came up to us, talked to us and accepted us and come and sit with us, and then they introduced us to other people, and then other people, it just sort of branched out. And in the end, we weren't even in that circle anymore. We'd found other people which were friends of friends, and then it branched out from there, and the acceptance and kindness, and to our children as well. They got to know the boys, and they invited us to their weddings. We had about 3 weddings we went to. We went to birthday parties, even though we sort of thought, I used to say to Stephen, I suppose we could go, because by then we were getting quite friendly, and I'd always feel a bit nervous about going to the birthday party, but then I thought, there was nothing in it. They didn't sing, they just sang happy birthday, and that was sort of it. And probably we skipped singing happy birthday, and we thought we were okay with, but you still had that guilty conscience. Well, it was... You know, you've been fed a false picture about how bad these people are out there, and that it was quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. You know, the people are so accepting and genuine people. They don't swear or anything much or judge.
Like
they don't judge. They're very accepting.
Yeah, really good.
That stood out to me actually. The fact that they accepted so many people that were. I sort of thought I probably wouldn't have had the patience with them as much as they did.
They're not critical.
I thought, if anything, we're the ones that have got to, bring our standard up because theirs was amazing.
Yeah.
Quite us to show me, because as witnesses, you become judgmental and critical of people. It's part of the indoctrination makes you like that. And then we realised that the people in the so-called world were not like that. They were so accepting and non-judgmental of anyone. So it was a big learning curve, really.
Yeah, so that's about after having made those friends. It was easy to.
I was just going to say, I suppose that's a good. Oh no, you keep going. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of lag there. And I was I thought I had a pause. I think I suppose a good piece of advice for people that are newly leaving or in the same position as you would be to pursue your interests and passions, and not to worry so much about, is anyone going to like me? Will I find friends? Because you will. It'll just happen.
Yeah.
And you guys are a prime example for that.
Yeah, and also for me, mind you, people say I'm quite chatty and social, but I didn't think I was. As a witness, I was quite shy, quiet. I wasn't just me. I think that's what it was. Everyone thought that it was little Janice, quiet little Janice that doesn't say boo, and she's a pushover, and she's so, what would you say, Steve? I'm just sort of meek and mild. And I thought, I probably am to a degree at first, but it just made me think, wow, I've got the ability to, it just brought me out of my shell so much that I'm just not the same person anymore.
No, you've blossomed into the real you.
Well, it is. It was always wanting to be there, but suppressed so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my tip to any ones that are just new out of the, just newly escaped out of the org, because you as witnesses, it's such a sheltered life that the only ones you know are family in the org. There's no one else, and when you walk away, you've got no one. But if you can find friends out there, it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier to cope. And that's in our case. We haven't really felt it, except with our own family members. We've had to kind of just shut the door to it. We haven't been officially disfellowshipped for anything, and yet they've treated us like as apostates, and we're the worst criminals on the planet. So we're dead to them. They won't, both your side pretty much and all my side of the family, they won't talk to us. But we've got all these friends. First time in our life we've had real friends, and lots of friends. There's lots of people we know, and we seem to get on so well, and they love our company as well. So it's been great.
That's like amazing that there are people out there that are happy to be friends with you and to have real relationships with you, that as opposed to as witnesses we're sort of forced to be friends with people that we may not really get along with or aren't good for us. So it is nice and refreshing in a way, even though it is really sad that our family and friends from the organization, we're dead to them. We're all in the same prison block of apostates. But yeah, we've got a much more rich and fulfilling life, I think, with real friendships and like based in reality. So
yeah, exactly.
And I sort of, what was I going to say? I quite like the fact that people that that haven't been brought up as witnesses are so, they're encouraging too. They sort of they'll always point out something they like, won't they? They might not say it to me, but they might say it to Stephen. But they'll say it to that they like something about you, and that they really sort of notice it. And it might only be something that's really small, but you've never had it said to you before. And it's almost like you it would have been regarded as something to be that's arrogant or haughty if you'd accepted that you could be good at something. It's sort of whether it be art like you or whatever. You know, it's a talent that should be celebrated, is sort of looked down on.
Yeah.
In Stephen's case especially, people used to look down on Stephen. They said it because it was selfish. It was, you know, doing especially...
I really don't know what their thoughts was.
Yeah, especially with doing restoring his cars, that was selfish because he should have been out witnessing at that time.
Yeah.
Not using it in frivolous things that are just going to be rusting away and destroyed at Armageddon. It's a waste of time and money and service.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, well, you're really good at it, like even family, I'm thinking, not particularly, they would never encourage it because it might make you do it more.
Mm.
You know, if you get encouraged,
it'll take you away.
Even more, and then they'll be responsible for if you're encouraged, even after it's finished. You don't sort of get a that's fabulous.
No.
Even from your own parents, really, especially your parents never did. They didn't believe in doing that, or you know, it's a bit sad.
And so you have your interest in the cars and music, and so that's obviously something that you can spend more time on now. And how do you find life now, you know, moving forward, that you can do these things that you want to do?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the biggest thing is freedom. It's I've always had respect for freedom because I think probably because I was deprived of it so much as a kid and growing up, and I had a lot of gifts. I've realised lots of talents in many areas, and all those things had to be squashed. And so basically, I'm trying to make up for lost time now. I'm trying to do the things that I would have wanted to have done as a job, things that I should have done in my life. I'm doing it now. People don't understand it. Some people will be critical and say, you know, why are you doing all this at your age? You know, doing these things, but they don't know my story. But I'm actually enjoying. I'm doing the things that I've always wanted to do and never could do. And so that, to me, that's a big thing. And the music, you know, I was told, well, on 2 occasions from Top, one a diva, musical, a woman who sings and had travelled all around the world, and another top coach who had actually performed before the Queen, singing coach.
Wow.
And they said that had I been given the opportunities when I was younger, I basically could have been famous. So that's the sort of thing that happens when if you've got talents or any sort of gifts.
When you're young, especially.
When you're brought up in that org, you've got no show of being able to do with the things that your Creator's given you, all those gifts He's given you to do. And that's the thing. It's how can you be the right God? The very God has given us these gifts. Why is it that this so-called God doesn't want you to use those gifts? And I looked at it and I thought, well, basically I've been just giving the Most High a big slap in the face and saying, no, I don't want these things. And yet, really, it wasn't the case. But that's how it comes across. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I'm trying to. There's so many things, and I'm trying to fit it all in, and you can't devote time justice to everything. At the moment, I suppose cars is taking more prominence than the singing. But when this is out of my way, maybe I might get back to doing something more serious with the music. But I don't do any training at home. I don't do any practicing. Not from one day to the next do I sing at home whatsoever. And yet I'll go out on a night once a week and I just get up and sing.
Yeah.
And I'll sing a song I haven't even sung before. And I get almost standing ovations.
That's amazing.
That's the sort of, you know.
He doesn't practice.
I don't do any practicing, so I kept saying to myself, what would I be like if I did practice and put more time in it? Where would I be?
You can only do one thing.
I can relate.
The car's sort of taking up the fun.
No, it's all good.
But I quite like going out because it's really good. Because the little bar that we go to is really fabulous, and the people that are there's probably about 30 that are regulars. Would there be 30?
Oh, there must be.
Yeah, at least 30 regular people will
cool.
just congregate. They come every Wednesday. For them, it's not negotiable. They'll go there because they meet up with everyone, hear everyone singing. They're not all singers, but these are just the regulars that I can think of. And they really look forward to their catching up with everyone. It's really, and the atmosphere is so happy. I think I did put it on Living, and that's the atmosphere there. Everyone's sort of happy, and it's quite special actually. I don't think how we stumbled across it, I don't know. It was just meant to be.
I'll have to come and visit.
Yes, on a Wednesday night. It's usually on a Wednesday.
I won't sing though.
You're allowed.
I don't think anyone will want to hear it.
Well, I don't sing. I don't. I'm allowed, but they think that I can, but I can't.
Just have the air of mystery about you. And so what are some things, Janice, for yourself that you've been able to pursue now?
Well, I think I'm not a person that needs all these hobbies. One is enough in the family. If I did that as well, it would be really...
Janice is very supportive.
It would be, yes.
That's good.
But I don't mind because I don't classify myself as artistic or creative, but in saying that, my friends say nice things about, but I suppose I'm supportive. I don't want to pat myself on the back.
No, you are. Pat yourself.
He can tell you.
This is sometimes I get people in the car clubs and that they ask me, how's it your wife's interested in the cars? Because a lot of these guys turn up on their own. The wives are not interested.
And the music,
they don't, they don't even go down the runs or anything.
And the music.
Yeah, and the same with the music.
Oh, wow.
How's it your wife is, so keen and all this? Well, okay, with the cars, when I restored the first one, I gave it to Janice, and that changed everything.
I don't want it.
It started winning cups at all the shows. The first cup it won, I had her name engraved on the cup, and so on and so on. So she gets a real buzz out of it now, and it goes to the shows, and people come along in the car and they talk about it, and then she's all excited, and it's mine. The car's mine. she's really keen. That's the trick. I says, And the other thing is. The other thing with the music is I let Janice look after all my music sheets.
She doesn't even know what songs are in the book. I have to find.
She organises the songs, and gets all the song charts written up, and get everything correctly done.
He doesn't even know what key his songs are.
So Janice does all that. So that's how she's involved, and and that's what it should be like. You have two people work together at everything goes well.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that didn't.
So that was a little excerpt.
That bit was the backing singers singing, but that's all right. Yeah, that was a little gig where Stephen had to get dressed up for New Year's Eve to do a Roy Orbison stunt.
Oh, okay.
He's done that a couple of times for New Year's Eve, which has been quite cool.
Not New Year's Eve.
Yes. We're going to actually. I better not say. No, this year.
Probably the biggest buzz I got, I guess, was I was invited to get involved in a fundraising concert with hand-picked top singers because it was people were paying good money, but the money was going to a good cause. And so I thought, well, I'll do it. So so I got up and I did one song, but that was before 850 odd people, and that's not a big crowd, but it is for some.
That's a lot.
It was quite a privilege. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So I guess like moving forward, like what kind of goals or what do you have on a bucket list or anything, things to do next?
Let me think. I haven't got anything other than I've put down here. I would like to think. Well, world travel's probably out now anyway. I'm forgetting about travel.
We had talked a little bit about it,
but just sort of being happy and helping others, like our kids, just to let them sort of, just make their lives more normal, and a little bit like making up for some of the stuff that we've done to them. We haven't been strict as some witness parents have been, but just sort of making their lives happy. I don't know, just sort of enjoying their company more, because we get on better since we've left than what we did when we were.
Both of your children have left as well, so everyone knows.
Yeah, both boys are.
Yeah, they have, but they don't sort of advertise it to people because they were never baptised. So I think they've still got friends that are J-dubs that some still talk to them, which is quite nice. Whereas some like their family don't. Their family will just shun them, and they were like aunties and uncles and cousins. They're just shunned by them, which is quite disgusting, really. But I think my biggest thing is just to grow in confidence and get rid of that fear, which I have. That's a big thing, because I didn't realise how much fear I had when I left. It was huge. The Armageddon fear and the doom and destruction, and that's all gone. I didn't realise that I was having nightmares at night. I used to dream about being taken away and put in prison, and not being, because from a child you'd see those books and the pictures in the Paradise book, and that was that big orange book that we used to study as children, and they were doom and gloom and being swallowed up by earthquakes, and it was pretty horrendous.
Graphic.
And I was always scared of Armageddon. I'm not, obviously not now, so that's good. That's something, just to live a normal, so-called normal life's my goal, and just carry on sort of day by day and just as it comes. I'm not really, I think we're sort of moving on in a way that I don't look back now at all. I did for a while, but when we first, probably that first 2 or 3 years, now it's at least 5 years. For a couple of years I did. It didn't take that long to sort of completely just not worry about other people and what they think. And if you're walking up the street, just go past with your head high up in the air and say hello or smile as you go past. That was a big thing for me. So I think I'm moving on with more confidence. I think I've become...
That gives me some hope as well, because I'm within just a 6-month period, and so far I haven't seen anyone I used to know. So
I see them all the time. We see them all the time, especially me in the supermarket. If I go, because we've got a little local supermarket with lots of witnesses that go there, that in our area, and even just yesterday I saw someone in there, a brother-in-law actually, and he just walked straight past, and he didn't. And I wanted.
What do they do?
Do you know what I wanted to do? And I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I was going to go up to him and say, "What's your problem?" But I thought, no, I'm not going to.
They're not worth it. But we shouldn't
I've
feel
got
like we've got
past that now.
Don't even feel like you've got to, if you see a witness that you've got to somehow hide or, walk across the road or whatever. No.
Because you're not doing anything wrong.
No, we haven't done anything wrong.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm so much more relaxed, I think, that people would have even in the last 2 years, because I mean, it is 5 years since probably 6 years since we stopped going to a meeting, but 5 years since we officially stopped going to the meetings. And even in that time, I think people would say, you look so much more relaxed. Even in the last couple of years, people say that I worked with, and just people that you haven't seen for a long time, they just think we're quite different, don't they? And that's always, that's really nice. It makes me feel good.
It's amazing.
When I get, I must have been pretty bad, I think when I look back, just not being ourselves was my biggest challenge, is just to be who I want to be. And I know I've always known that I should. That's the silly part. It's just that you don't think you're allowed to be, or you can't be, because it's not what God would want, to be sort of so confident.
Sort of beaten down into that box. Yeah. And everyone's pushing you down. So, yeah.
So, but I can't think of anything else that I'm trying to think what else advice that I've got for people. Have you got any more?
Well, pretty much the more important thing is to get out there and get to know people. And you don't know, even there's always some gift of encouragement that one can pass on to somebody. Something you say and you don't even know you've said something that's been encouraging.
Yeah.
But then they come back and say, "Oh, look, I've really appreciated, talking today," and and that's what everybody needs, support. We're all struggling along in the system of things, and it's just that interaction. Which, when you're witnesses, you don't have that opportunity, because you're not. It's not natural grounds when you're going as a stranger, knocking on someone's door. Barriers go up. How are you ever going to get to know anybody? How are they going to get to know you? Doesn't work.
Yeah.
But when you find friends and they get to know who you are as a person, and they find you reliable and trustworthy, sometimes they've got a lot of stuff they want to offload. And if you're here and here, you can be a great support to them.
Yeah.
And then
they
draw strength from just the positive way we carry on, and it sets a good example. It helps them. Very rarely do we get into religious discussions. We probably don't as much as we did to start with. We don't push religion. I don't think you need to. It's the examples that matters. People can see who you are. You're walking what you talk. It's not mouthing of one thing and not doing something else. You live what you believe. You live a good life as best you can. So what I'm at the moment, I've got to shortly, once I've got this Wolseley finished, I'm going to look at, hopefully if all goes well, we'll be able to get on with our building project. I've got the garage I want to convert into a 1-bedroom apartment for Adam, because he'll have a full place of his own. So anyway, I'm going to give him a place. And Sean, the other brother, he's got his own home. I want to help him get his place. What's wrong with that? It's fine. I just want to help Sean get his house painted and decorated, and I just feel like I owe something to them. So I'm going to do that and help them get themselves on their feet. So I've got a few projects to come up, but if I get time, I've often thought I wouldn't mind learning Maori, so I might do a course on learning Maori.
We should know how to speak Maori in our own country, in New Zealand. It would be great, wouldn't it? I think at school now there's those opportunities, but not when we were young.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that you can choose to do. Like if you're, like people say, I haven't got any interest. Well, that would be me, but compared with Stephen. But there is always something. you know, like it might be a tramping club or a walking group or a genealogy group. You know, it doesn't have to, even if you're not artistic or creative, there's those other things like, you know, an exercise class, whatever. There are so many different opportunities, and you can find all those things advertised in the paper, in your local paper. Because I've looked through or there might be a meeting you can go to that looks of interest about a topic that you might want to hear about. It might be a little talk about health or fitness or family or even floral, you know, trees or plants or birds or animals, cats, whatever. There's always something
endless
that you can go to. Yeah, so you don't have to be an expert in dancing or in singing or whatever. You can find something in the community that interests you. In fact, you wouldn't even have time to do all the different things that you might want to try. There wouldn't even be time to do it all. So there's no shortage. I don't think so anyway. But something else I thought of too that we did last week, we went to it was a bit sad, we went to a funeral for one of our music friends, and it was a bit sad, but the funeral sort of made me realise again how people view life from how we've viewed it when we were growing up. Like when my dad passed away, the encouragement that I got was along the lines, well, he's made it into the new system. He's got his ticket, he's there. Now you've got to make sure you and your family, because my kids were only about 12, you've got to get you and the family have got to be there to meet him. Otherwise, you know, you've got all this work to do. You know, it was sort of like, oh my goodness. But
yeah, it's celebrating the person's life, not a watchtower indoctrinated talk about how to become a witness.
Yeah, and they sort of it gets dismissive towards you as like, you know, the daughter that's dismissing your feelings and just being like, oh well, he's in the new system and now it's all on you. That's horrible. Yeah. So
that was quite comforting, the way that everyone looked after the husband, that, you know, who had lost his wife. It was quite encouraging to see that support.
That's good. Yeah. Very different to the witness one, huh?
Very.
But it is positive stuff too that we've found and experienced. Yeah.
Well, I would say, like, it's very commendable that you guys both were able to wake up and together, to make it through together, that whole process, and then to also not have your children stuck in there as well. So I think that that's amazing. And just how you are existing and living and being positive is just, it's awesome, and I love it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Pleasure.
No, that was lovely, Michelle. It'd be nice to think that there's some sort of encouragement for someone out there, because I always enjoy listening to other people's experiences, and I get a lot out of listening to other people of all different varieties. There's so many different people doing so many different things, and it's really encouraging. Yeah, to hear their stories too.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say, or shall we leave it there?
Well, sometimes I remember when it's all finished, but it's hard when you sort of, I can't think of anything at the moment. I think you've asked all the questions, and you sort of, life sort of has whizzed by, really. It's gone so quickly.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it when I look back and I think, my goodness, is this 40 odd years gone by?
Life is short. It goes very quickly, and as you get older, it just goes quicker and quicker. Each 10 years goes quicker than the one before. You need to. One needs to make the best of what they can while they can. You know, don't just sort of think, oh well, I've got plenty of time. I'll wait till next year or whatever it is. I've realised that every day is precious, every day, and that time is not repeated. It's something, whatever you do in that day, that's never going to happen again. Who you've associated with someone or been with someone, done something nice together, treasure it, because you know you might think, oh, we can do this again, but it's not the same, you know. So that's how we should live life, and I think it's good when people get cameras out and take photos. I can see why, because they want to capture that moment, and they can always look back at that and say, oh yes, this is what we did, and it's so important to really treasure what life is, and enjoy all the things that's been created around us. Get out and about, enjoy our beautiful country. There's such a lot of lovely things to see in this country, and you never get tired of it. I mean, I never get tired of driving around and looking at the scenery, and it's just incredible. And enjoying it with people that you like to share the time with. So that's what life is, you know. It's
finding yourself, finding your tribe, and enjoying life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I always think, I don't know about yourself, Michelle, but have you sort of found too that it's easy to meet people once you sort of get that first little, it's that first start, isn't it? Just that first little move. It's sort of.
I remember initially, like I was like, I'm going to be all by myself if I leave. But then after leaving, there's a big community of XJ-dubs online, and then just sort of following your passions. I did the same thing. I got involved with art and just reached out to other people, and it's going good.
Lovely, eh? That's cool.
Yeah. People aren't scary.
No, they're not.
Exactly. That's exactly, and I think that's exactly what you said is right, because I used to find people a little bit frightening. And even at school, when I think about it, growing up at school, it was all very frightening, and that's why I was shy, I think, because I didn't have that confidence to just know how to be with people, because they're just the same. They're just what's normal. Everyone's so different. But we were in that little box of abnormal, really. And then the other people were in another abnormal box, but that's sort of, they were allowed to be, because they can be as whatever they like, you know, and there's so many varieties of normal that is accepted. Doesn't matter what walk of life you're from, you can fit in. And whereas as a JW, you've got to be all the same. That pathway, so it's quite a stressful way to live for children, to grow up with
and
that.
Very judgmental.
But you know, from little children, that's what's happening, and it's hard for children. It's not what they want to do naturally, because that's not how children are. They're so accepting.
No.
And little children are just, that's where you should be learning from, how little children treat it. You know, they just don't have any prejudice, do they?
Yeah.
And then we're moulding them to be different and look at the world in such a negative way. It's quite damaging. But
definitely.
it's good to be out, and you know, as we're not looking back at all.
Exactly.
No show of returning.
Actually enjoying life really to its fullest for the first time in 60 odd years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yay. Well, I guess we can end it there. But thank you for chatting with me. I was so happy to hear your story.
Okay, Michelle. Thank you for listening.
I was going to say bye.
Oh, good boy. Bye-bye. Good little boy.
See ya.